Some things can be controlled, but others cannot. The essence of prudent risk management is to arrange the things that are under your control in order to protect yourselves from all the other things that are not. In the first two lessons, we focused on some of those other things, like hackers, malware, phishing scams, and malicious internet activity in all of its many forms. Hackers and malware are external threats that are out of our control. But what we can control is our assets and the ability to manage our risks. This lesson will focus on how to create cybersecurity controls in the ever-changing world of information technology. In the great written work, The Art of War, ancient Chinese theorist and military strategist Sun Tzu wrote, "Know your enemy and know yourself." In this lesson, we are going to focus on the know yourself part. Step one in risk management is to ask yourself, what exactly do I stand to lose? If the worst possible things happen to your computer or to your information, how bad would that be? Hardware, quite honestly, is probably the least of your worries. With the cost of PCs, laptops, tablets, and netbooks declining every year, hardware is relatively cheap and easy to replace. Sometimes professionals who get a virus infection on their laptop just replace the laptop. Compared to the cost of cleaning up the infected computer, purchasing a new one may be the most cost-effective and time-saving way to go. Malware can absolutely ruin a PC or a laptop. But what about the loss of your personal information? In 2012, Wired magazine writer Matt Honan was attacked by anonymous attackers who were able to hack his files on both Amazon and Apple, giving them complete access to Honan's online accounts. In the space of about an hour, every digital file that Honan had stored online was systematically deleted. Many of Honan's personal devices were backed up only by Apple's iCloud online storage, so he did not have a local backup. For a few days, it looked like he had lost all personal and professional files. In the aftermath of this attack, Honan finally found a way to restore the personal photos and much of his other files from online backups. The process was grueling, however, and it ended up costing Honan over $1,600 out of pocket. So ask yourself again, if the worst possible thing happened to all your digital files, how bad would it be? While we are discussing worst-case scenarios, how much is your reputation worth to you? Or your personal identity? Without looking far beyond a typical college classroom, it's fairly easy to find people with horror stories about having their identities stolen. It happened to one of my cybersecurity professors. It started with an auto break-in, which led to a home break-in, which led to a lost checkbook, which led to additional layers of impersonation, fraud, police reports, and canceled accounts. We all know someone with a similar story to tell. Thanks to malware, identity thieves do not need such crude physical methods as auto or home break-ins. Why risk a physical robbery when an online identity theft will do? According to a 2013 cost of cybercrime study, cybercrime was up over 78% from an earlier study period in 2009. Moreover, the cost of cleanup for an average business cyber attack was estimated at over $1 million. Because they are relatively lightly defended, small and medium businesses are a growing target for cybercriminals. A cybercrime cleanup bill running into the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions, is enough to put many small and medium-sized businesses out of business. So let me ask you again, what is your worst-case scenario? In accounting, the term asset is used to describe anything of value. Asset categories include cash, receivables, property, equipment, and intangibles such as a brand name. In information security, essentially the same notion of assets can be used. Anything of value worth protecting is an asset. When it comes to digital information, personal identity, account numbers, intellectual property, employee data, and software code are all assets that may hold considerable value. All of these assets are worth money to an attacker. The price of stolen identity on the cyber black market varies with market conditions, but in recent years, hackers could sell such data for as little as a few $100s. However, these prices are going down. Why? Supply and demand. There are so many stolen identities out there, The black market is flooded with identity theft data, and cyber criminals need to aggregate the data in creative ways to maintain the market value. However, criminals still have many different ways to monetize stolen identities, which explains why identities keep getting stolen. For risk management, the name of the game is defending your assets. It is beyond your power to make bad guys good. So what can you do? The risk exposure attached to your assets is partially a function of the number and intensity of the threats against those assets. Risk exposure is also a function of the vulnerability of these assets. Vulnerabilities are internal system weaknesses. If we think of threats as burglars in the night, we might also think of vulnerabilities as unlocked doors. Cyber criminals prefer the path of least resistance. Given a choice of targets, softer targets will be preferred. A system with many vulnerabilities is a soft target. The same set of assets on a softly defended system will be at greater risk than an identical set of assets on a hardened system. Hackers are beyond your control. However, system vulnerabilities are under your control. So the best strategy to reduce your hacking risk is to mitigate system vulnerabilities. Cybersecurity experts speak of three types of system controls. These include physical controls, administrative controls, and technical controls. Physical controls are those we commonly understand. You need to do things like lock the door to the server closet so a phony repairman won't exfiltrate your company's data on a hand truck. Firewalls will protect data on a network. However, a firewall can easily be breached by attaching a USB stick to the servers. So physical controls keep the wrong people physically away from the data. Administrative controls also keep the wrong people away from the data, but they do so more on the level of law or policy. Any sort of law or policy sanction that prohibits hacking is an administrative control. Acceptable use policies are administrative controls. Rogue employees sometimes have the physical or technical means to steal data, but as a result of this, they may be fired, sued, or even imprisoned. These sorts of sanctions, which protect data through the threat of legal consequences, are administrative controls. Most of this class is going to focus on technical controls. From time to time, we will also touch on physical or legal controls, but for the next few lessons, most of our attention will fall on technical controls. Are there particular types of technology that are especially effective at keeping trespassers out while allowing legitimate users to have access to their data? Those are the kinds of technology that will be covered in the upcoming lessons. However, before we start to list and analyze all the technical methods for keeping data contained and keeping data thieves out, we need to have a realistic sense of balance between costs and benefits. Former White House cybersecurity czar Rod Beckstrom has published several papers on cybersecurity costs and benefits. What he calls Beckstrom's Law illustrates why cybersecurity is worth the investment, as well as why it might not be worth the investment. This is really just basic economics, but to understand it, we will need to do a little math. Here is one simple equation illustrating Beckstrom's Law. Network value equals network benefit minus network cost minus cost of security minus expected loss due to hacking. Now put yourself in the mindset of a chief financial officer. Maximize benefits, minimize all costs. So ideally, maximum profit will be obtained by reducing the cost of security. It's actually a cost, a drag on the bottom line. However, losses due to hacking are also a cost. The CFO probably dreams in a fantasy world in which both security costs and hacking costs can both decrease at the same time. By contrast, the way to reduce hacking losses is to increase the investment in cybersecurity. It takes money to save money, but how much is enough? Beckstrom discusses all of this at great length, but essentially, as long as $1 of security deflects more than $1 of hacking loss, that security dollar is well spent. To sum all this up, you can't control the hackers, but you can manage your own assets and system vulnerabilities. You can also reduce risk by investing in technical controls. Is it worth it? It all depends on how much value you assign to your assets, in addition to how effective your technical controls are against the type of risk you are likely to face. In the next few lessons, we will investigate core technology that is used to develop the most common technical controls. Which ones work better? Which ones are simple and effective? We'll begin this investigation by taking a closer look at the main technology used by those who wish to keep private data safe from prying eyes. In our next lesson, the different forms of encryption.